Oh, hello Internet. I didn't see you there. Since you're here, I might as well tell you about this prototype I've been building in Unity 3D. This is a test scene that I've put together for what will be a third-person RPG, and I'll tell you a little bit about the tools that were used to put it together. If you look at the left-hand window here, you'll see this terrain object. This was created using GAIA, which is a procedural terrain generator. And it uses the standard terrain tools, but what it does is it provides you a height map as well as placement of terrain assets like these cottages and the trees and the rocks. And then it also handles texturing. So you'll see, sort of a sandy texture on the coastline, and you'll see a more rocky texture on vertical faces on the mountain, and then nice grassland texture on the flat stuff. And it has placement rules so that it'll only place things like these cottages on flatter areas. It won't place it on the side of a mountain. And then of course you can replace all of these, the textures and the models and the trees, with whatever assets you want for your game, and tweak the placement rules to get whatever sort of look you're going for. I've also got the Unity post-processing stack brought into the project here, and if I enable and disable this, you can see what sort of effect that's having. And this is just a really nice drag and drop solution to post-processing. It gets you a lot of powerful features with only a few minutes of work. And what I've got for this scene enabled is fog, anti-aliasing, ambient occlusion, motion blur, bloom, color grading, and a vignette. And the effect of it is pretty profound. It makes a big difference. And for a little test scene like this, this is all I could ever want. So now let's look at the character. Again, this little knight character is just a free asset that I brought in from the asset store, just a little placeholder. And he came with some animations, and I created an animation controller that ties his movement to the walking animations. And so when he's standing still, he'll do his little idle animation, and when I click the mouse button, he'll attack. And this is all the input for this has been wired up with Rewired, so all the actions can be done with the Xbox controller the same way they can with mouse and keyboard. So presumably any controller that Rewired supports should be able to play this little demo. And then the next thing to talk about is the camera. So the camera controller is actually pretty complex. I'm using Cinemachine, and I have the Cinemachine's free look camera. Come on. I need to zoom in on the character here so we can see the camera rigs. So if you look in the left-hand pane here, you'll see that the character has these 3 red rings surrounding him. And each of those red rings represents a virtual camera rig that orbits around the character. So the x-axis of the mouse is tied to those rings, and then the vertical axis is tied to a spline that traverses those rings. And there's kind of some trickery here, because if you look on the right hand side, you'll see the little targeting reticle. And what I had to do is, for each one of these camera rigs, what I did is I created a different focus point. So on the middle ring, the focus point is where you see it at the targeting reticle there, sort of just above his head. But then as you move up, the focus point for the camera actually moves up above the character's head, so that the targeting reticle stays above the character and points its stuff on the ground. And then if it moves below that middle ring, it moves up again, so you can point at stuff sort of up in the sky. And then the final thing that I'll say about the camera is it's got a collider, and this is another thing that Cinemachine provides. So if the camera hits any of the terrain assets, it'll move in towards the character instead of letting the camera clip in through that mesh. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed watching. See you next time. Bye.